And welcome back to Creative Thinkers. Again, my name is Miguel Valenzuela. And as always, we have a special guest. Today we have Chelsea Evaldi, and she is the owner of a very interesting store here in El Paso called Chuco Relic. Chelsea, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Miguel. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm super excited. You know why I'm so excited? Because I really find your store very interesting. But first, we want to learn a little bit about who you are and how you grew up. So are you originally from El Paso?
I am originally from El Paso. I actually grew up in Juarez.
Okay.
So I grew up in Juarez, but I always came to school in El Paso. And then finally in high school, we moved to El Paso. So I have the best of both worlds where I grew up in Juarez, always came to school in El Paso, and then had the experience of high school in El Paso.
So you say that it's a very special experience to have that. What does it feel like? I never lived in Juarez. I never lived in another country per se. What is it like to have half of your life be very culturally deep in the kind of Mexican society and then coming to school here?
You know, I feel lucky that I got to experience both cultures. I mean, El Paso has a lot of the Juarez culture to it, but it's still different. And I feel in Juarez, I had a really big sense of community. I knew the entire vecindad.
Right.
You know, they knew me, and they protected each other and always watched out for each other. I just remember that being really important in our neighborhood, where there was 3 parks around our neighborhood. Right. So we would go in our bikes, get all the neighborhood kids, go to the different parks. So I enjoyed growing up in Juarez and getting our authentic tacos and, you know, knowing what that was. And then coming to El Paso and having a different experience and having, you know, the different culture as far as like even restaurants was different in El Paso and things like that. But I thought it was normal, you know, of course, growing up. And then once I left, I just realized that it's actually a very unique experience to have growing up. So it made me even more grateful for it.
And living on the border, I think, is very, very special because we do have that dynamic of both cultures coming in. I understand that El Paso has a very deep Mexican culture, but we also have other cultures coming in from both sides, actually. So how does that incorporate into what you've lived in your life? Just the different cultures, because you're still doing it in your business, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Right.
But how does that work out as to who you are?
It makes me proud to have that to be Mexican, to be Mexicana, that culture. When I went to Xcaret, they have this show at the end of the park, and it's like showing the history of Mexico and things like that. And it always gives me this huge sense of pride of where we've come from, what we've accomplished, and what we are accomplishing. And also as a Mexican American, you know, the opportunities that I'm being given. So it's really important for me that I show that in my business as well. My kids, you know, I make sure that they're speaking Spanish, that they still have that connection to our roots, you know.
Yeah, which is extremely important. But you didn't always live here. You ended up leaving.
Yes.
Tell us where you went, how it was important, and how it influenced what you're doing today.
So for college, I ended up going to Abilene, which is very Caucasian. And so that was a shock for me because living in El Paso and Juarez, I didn't travel much. Our family didn't have the funds or the means to travel. So I thought that everybody was like me, you know, that we were all brown. And so when I left, it was a big culture shock. And even the difference in religion, like that not everybody is Catholic, like in El Paso. And then go after college, which was really amazing for me because I played soccer in college. And so they took us around all of Texas to play, you know, against the other universities. So that opened my eyes to what the world could be, even if it was just Texas. And then I ended up working in Austin, and I got to experience that Austin is a melting pot, and there's just a lot of different people there, and I got to see what it is to support local, because they were very big on it there in Austin, and they like to keep it weird. They're very proud of that.
Yeah.
And so
isn't that their slogan or something?
Yes, yeah, keep Austin weird.
Yeah.
And I love that they embraced that. There was, you know, different people out in the streets that, you know, like there was a man that always was wearing his bathing suit, and you knew him and he was part of Austin. And so I felt like in El Paso, we sometimes were missing that. Like we weren't embracing exactly what was making us so unique and so special. So then I started to appreciate El Paso in that sense when I was in Austin, and then I got to move to Ireland. And in Ireland, I got to experience more of the world. I felt like the world became smaller for me because once I was over there, it's so easy to travel throughout Europe.
Did you do a lot of traveling?
Yeah,
in
I
Europe?
did.
Okay.
I did. I got to travel a lot. And so, I would just be getting a flight for like €100 to get to Paris. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to Paris so easily. It just felt like before that wasn't something I would be able to do. But in all of that, I felt like what I was experiencing outside is something that I had already in El Paso that I was making me appreciate. In Ireland, they have a very tight-knit community, they take care of each other, and I felt like I had that in El Paso. So it made me really appreciate what El Paso is, that we're a big city with a small town feel, that if I go to the grocery store, if I go to Chihuahua's game, I'm gonna see someone I know, and I feel like I'm part of a bigger community, and that I'm part of something. Well, like anywhere I go, I see someone I know, and I like that I'm just connected to everybody in some way or another.
Yeah, it's absolutely important for us to have connections for sure. But another important aspect is all the traveling. For me, it's very important. I think that when people get out to see things, even if it's to go to the corner and have an experience of some sort, I think that it's important. Then the travels that you did throughout Europe, and maybe just even going to Austin, which isn't, that far from here, we're still in the same state. But how does that help you in what you're doing right now as far as creativity is concerned? Because I'm sure that when you go out and meet these people, you're somehow touched or influenced by them. How has that affected you?
So knowing other people's experiences, other people's stories, it inspires me because I get to see what other people are doing and what they have gone through, and in their own, it's like another world because it's another place, and they have been able to accomplish whatever they've accomplished is inspiring for me, knowing that I can do it as well. And bring it into El Paso. And I feel that a lot of people have been doing that they have been experiencing things outside of El Paso and bringing it back. And that's something that really influenced me, that I was seeing what other, I met entrepreneurs in Austin, and once you meet them, they really make it seem easy because they're living it. And so seeing that, thinking, okay, well, I can do that, that's something that I'm able to do, or just getting to know people that are doing, even studying different things and finding out about that. While I was in Ireland, actually, I got to meet a web developer, and we actually created an app together where I did the drawings of it. And so that was an experience for me. I don't know that I would have experienced in El Paso because where I was, it was a big technology area.
Hub or something.
And so I got to meet that type of person. So it's just, it's exciting. I think it's necessary for everybody to get out of their comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Get to know other people's experiences, other stories, and then some way create it and make it your own to help you in your own path, right?
Absolutely, because I think it's important for us as individuals to have somebody that inspires us. Did you have anybody like that when you were young? Because I know that for me, when I was young, one of the biggest inspirations was my mother.
Yes.
So did you have anybody like that?
I don't know that, of course, my mom was a big inspiration, but I don't know that at the time I knew she was inspiring me. She was just a very strict single mom. And so the option to fail was not available, so it was just like, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna get your grades right. Like she was just very on top of us, which now as a mom, I realize is very exhausting. So before I thought like, oh, she just bothers, but I'm like, oh my God, how exhausting for her to just constantly be on us like that. So she was just very dedicated and making sure that we were successful. So I have two other sisters, and we've all graduated. We all have our careers and stuff. So my mom just made sure we even now, all of us just don't think failure is an option. We have to always make sure we're finding a solution in some way to get to what we're wanting to get.
Well, because I think it's important for your mom because she had an understanding of what might happen, right?
Right.
So that was absolutely an influence for you. Did she nurture your creativity? Because I can see that you're a very creative person, and we're going to get to your business so we can talk a little bit more about it. But how has that helped you, that kind of influence and nurturing and, I guess, thinking outside the box?
You know, so I wouldn't even say that I am creative, but I'm a creative in a different sense because the way that I have become, you know, created Chuco Relic and my ideas is very because of competition. And I'm very competitive because I played sports, and that's something that my mom nurtured. And so I was always in sports since very young, started in soccer, and then I, you know, got to play all the way to college. And so I have a very competitive spirit, and I'm very observant. So in that, I see everything and I observe everything, and then I think, okay, how can I do it better?
Oh, okay.
You know, so that's the way that I work, is getting inspired by others and not so much taking away from what they have created, but thinking, okay, is there a possible way that I can do this better?
And that's interesting you say that because I also had a business when I was younger, and that's kind of the way that I was inspired. So when you were in Austin, did that help you come over here and start a business?
So while I was in Austin, I worked at a bank, and I got to meet a lot of people and ask how they manage their money. And so I learned about money in Austin. You know, I learned how money works, how to save it, how to grow it. And so that helped me know how to run the business as far as financially, and know, okay, well, how much money do I need to put in and take out, and, you know, to have employees. So that in that sense, that's how Austin helped me. And also seeing their small stores, because they had the small boutique stores before El Paso did.
Right.
And so knowing that that was already something, it was already a thing somewhere else. So going into those stores, well, thinking, okay, well, this is something that El Paso can have. El Paso can definitely carry something similar, you know, so that helped me as well.
So your store is Chuco Relic. You guys sell local things, local items. What does that mean?
So we have about 20 different local artists, and they create different things from designing the t-shirts. We print the t-shirts as well. We have people that make pillows, handmade pillows. The notebooks that we carry, they're handmade. We have original art, but we also have the artists create prints of the art, because original art can be expensive, you know, $250, $500, $1,000. And so we give people the opportunity to still carry that art and support that artist, and by having a print of their artwork. So we carry the prints as well that the artists have signed. So yeah, it's just different products that the artists have created, and we always ask the artists to create something inspired by the culture of El Paso. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the star on the mountain. It could be whatever inspires them or whatever they feel is connected to the culture of El Paso. So in whatever sense that is, then that's what we take in.
And do the artists create like 20 different works of art, and then you choose one that will go on a t-shirt? How does that work?
So that's a different process for the t-shirts. Now we used to outsource that, and I would think, okay, I like this artist, maybe they can create a t-shirt for us, and I would give them the idea that I had, and they would create it for us. But now we have a creative team. So now we have we come up with either a theme for the season, and we stick to that theme. We pick a color palette, and then we go with that and start creating whatever shirts. And we also take into consideration what our customers have told us. So if they've said, you know, we want a skull t-shirt like this one, you know, a colorful skull. So we keep that in mind, and we're like, okay, people have asked us for a colorful skull, so make sure that we incorporate that into our collection this time. Or we keep in mind, like, we have Pride Month coming up, so during Pride Month we create a Pride shirt.
Your earrings. They kind of symbolize
Oh,
that a
yes,
little bit.
yeah. And so even my earrings, they're locally made by Matcha Ubi,
Nice.
Gabby, and by Crystal. So they collabed and created these earrings.
I
So
love them.
yeah, and the thing is, what is so amazing is that El Paso has so many great local art, you know, and very passionate
we
people.
really do.
They're very passionate and great people, which is so beautiful, and that I get to work with them and that I get to have a house for their art, because a lot of them have their own, you know, this is their side hustle where they're trying to hopefully expand to something else.
Right.
And so for me to be able to house their items, their babies, and sell it for them is a privilege. You know, I'm so lucky to be able to do it.
So if somebody wants to get in contact with you, not like email or anything, but do they just come into your shop and start talking to you? If I'm an artist, for example?
No, so what we do now, I mean, now that we've grown, that we have the 3 stores, we do have a process now. So we do ask that they become vendors. We have a market every last Sunday at our central location. So we ask them that to be a vendor at the market. And we want to see how the customer reacts to our customer, because they're the ones that are coming to the market, to see how well their product does while they're vending at the market. And we'll then after that, we'll say, okay, well, which of your products did the best? Which ones sold well? And they'll let us know. And then we'll look at it and say, okay, well, then we'll go ahead and take this many or whatever we feel would work. So that's how, now that's the process of getting in the store. We ask you to be a vendor at a market, at a last Sunday market. And then after that, we have a conversation. Because
That's pretty cool.
yeah, you know, it has taken a while for us to create this process, because before it was just like you would come in and hopefully you would catch me in the store, or you would do an application. But it's just me making the decision, and I feel like, okay, well, I like it, but you know,
Does
I'm
the
not
public
everybody.
like it,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's
I'm not
right.
everybody.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, so it's kind of when the customers come to the markets, they're kind of voting on who they want in the store in a sense, or deciding, because they decide based on their sales, we decided we want to continue on with that vendor or not.
How do you decide how many t-shirts you keep in stock? Like, how do you decide, okay, this one's not selling as well, so let's kind of wean this one out and let's bring in another artist or another design by the same artist? How do you guys figure that out? Seems like a very complicated situation.
Yeah, I think, well, it can be. I mean, like anything, it can get complicated, but really I just look at the sales at the end of the year and I say, look, these are the ones, these 5 are the ones that are doing that well. How long have we had them? We've had them for a really long time. Okay, let's start, let's discontinue them. So we have discontinued shirts in the store that are discounted.
Right.
And so, you know, it kind of also creates this understanding or this sense of, I can't think of the word, but we're letting customers know, like, hey, these shirts aren't going to be around forever, so make sure that you get it.
Limited edition,
yes,
right?
yeah, and make sure that you get it when you see it, when you like it, because it might not be here later. Because that was something that we were doing before, and we would have customers like, I'll come back.
Yeah.
And we're like, we need
And then it's gone.
Right, and we need to now, like, we decided, well, we've had some shirts since I started, you know, since 2014. So,
Wow.
yes, that we've carried
They're like
the whole time.
continuous sellers.
Right.
That's
and so
incredible.
we've decided, like, the ones that are not selling the least, we're going to just start discontinuing them, or even looking to redesign it, you know, different colors, just freshen it up a bit to make it different for our new customers, you know.
Yeah,
So-
and one of the most interesting ones for me, and I don't know if you can elaborate on this, is the El Paso Strong shirt. That was something that I was very impressed by when it came out, and it made a huge statement. How did that come to fruition?
So that the original design was by Mocha, and it's Moni and Charlie who are designers and printers as well. And so when the tragedy happened, they reached out to us and they're like, hey, people are wanting a t-shirt, like they want something to represent that we're in unity, and also so we can donate. And so she's like, do you want to be a part of it? And I said, sure. So we joined in with them, and we ended up, for 2 months, we were just selling that shirt strictly, and we ended up donating $50,000 to the community foundation for the victims of the shooting.
Wow.
Yeah, so that shirt was, and we had just opened. We opened in July, and then the tragedy happened in August.
Right.
So for 2 months, we pretty much gave up our store because we were not selling anything and we were donating all the profits.
Wow.
But with a sense of, Chuco Relic is of the community, I want to say. Like, we belong to the community. They're the ones that are supporting us. So we have to show up when they need us. It can't just be like making sure we make a profit or any of that. Because, and I knew that it was going to come back around. Yes, we're giving up for 2 months our store and we're not making anything. And it's super busy because we had lines walking out the store. But now we created customers from that. So they've come back and they've said, oh yeah, I came because of El Paso Strong. I bought the shirt at that point. And so it's helped, so it was a crazy experience. We usually print about 300 shirts a week. And during that time we were printing like 300 shirts a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How were you able to print that many?
We had people helping us. So we would go from morning to night printing them. That's all we were doing. We were just on it. Yes.
That's crazy.
It was.
Do you guys print everything yourselves?
We have started to. Yes. We used to not, but we've been able to grow. So now we have a print shop. We're up on Piedras. And so we print our shirts ourselves now.
And all the designs, so I'm an artist, I come up with a design, I talk to you, you say, that's great, I love it, I think it'll work. Your group or your team comes together and says, yeah, approves it. Then you take my design and you print it.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And then we'll give you a commission for the design.
That's really cool. So one doesn't even have to print their own shirts?
No. Yeah, we actually, we will only take the artwork if you print it yourself, like if you have your own print shop. If you don't, we say then you have to print it through us, because we've had third-party printing and it just gets complicated because they're answering to the artist and sometimes they can't get the order in time. So now we do the printing ourselves.
Yeah, just to facilitate everything for you guys, right? One of the things that I keep hearing is culture. Culture is very, very important. We've already kind of discussed that. But how important is it for the people that are coming in and buying? How important is it for them to be proud of their city? Right. Feels like that's what you're trying to grow.
Yes, and that's the reason why I started Chuco Relic, because I came back with a huge sense of pride for El Paso, and I wanted other people to be able to experience it and to be able to show it with a notebook, with a T-shirt, with a pillow, whatever, to be able to say, yes, that's my town, El Chuco. And so and we were talking about this before, how I was saying, when you come to Chuco Relic, we want you to have an experience. We want you to be able to share your stories with us. We love to hear customer stories of, if a shirt reminds them of something, to hear that experience. We even had a customer where he ended up finding a historic book at a estate sale, and he brought it for us because we do a Throwback Thursday on our Instagram. Oh, wow. And he's like, maybe you could find stories here. So he was thinking about us while he was making that purchase, because we've made that connection, And so we want, when people come in, to, if they don't know about El Chuco, if they're just visiting, for us to we tell them the stories of it. Why do we have, what's the star on the mountain? What are the alligators? What's a pachuco? We give them all of that, all of that, all of those stories. And then afterwards and then they fall in love in their own, and make their purchases.
Yeah, which is one of the things that I really love, that we actually now have kind of like, not an El Paso store where I can get a magnet that looks like it was manufactured in China, but where you really get something that's local from the community. And I love the fact that you're really attracting artists and making them more important, because I think that that's one of the most important things, is that we really focus on the creatives in our community and how they're really helping us change who we are as individuals and grow. Yes. How important for you is it that we incorporate art into our everyday life?
It's so important, because the art, just a picture can speak 1,000 words, So anytime, like even the El Paso Strong, it was a T-shirt, it was a design, and everybody understood what it meant, and that was the artwork that came from it, And so even when has been other situations, artists create their own interpretation of what's going on, and it allows people to connect to it and to say, oh, someone else has that same emotion. Right. And I feel that same emotion, so I can connect to it, and it allows us to become a community in a sense, as to we're all feeling these same things, or we all feel this connection with the star, or we all have our own story with the star, you know.
Absolutely.
So our all, I feel, creates community because we all connect to it in some way and make it our own story, but it's also someone else's story that they're connecting into in a way differently.
Yeah, talk about stories. Can you give our audience, our viewers, some advice? What can they do if they're trying to open up a business or if they're thinking creatively? What can you tell them?
You know, the hardest part about opening a business is the first step, is getting past that fear of saying, I am able to do it. Yes, that I'm able to do it, because I see businesses that are run like that halfway, you know, and they're still doing well. And so it's like if you have this in you, if for some reason you have this inspiration sitting inside of you. It's not sitting inside of everybody else. You think, people sometimes think, well, everybody has this idea, and they don't. It's inside of you for a reason, and you need to act on it. You know, the first step, just go and register your business at the courthouse. It's $15. Do that first step, and that may be the scariest part, and then say, okay, well, I did that part. I have a business now because you've registered the name to it. And then think of this next step, you know, break it down into something smaller that you are able to wrap your mind around, because sometimes you think, okay, well, I want to become a millionaire, and then you're like, it gets overwhelming to get to that part, and just making it smaller. And one thing that helped me a lot, baby steps. One thing that helped me a lot is I went to a lot of markets, even when I had my brick and mortar. Now there's so many markets that if you're wanting to start a business, go to participate in every single market with your product, get your name out there. It's an inexpensive way. It does take time, but you're going to get to know your customer, and you're going to get to know what they want from you, and if your product works, and it allows you to tweak it in an inexpensive way. Very good. So we're running short on time. How can somebody get a hold of you? You guys have Instagram, Facebook, phone number, locations. Yes. Tell us. So we have, it's all under Chuco Relic, and we have 3 locations on the east side, Mount One and Zaragoza, Central on I-10 and Copia, and then on the west side at Montecillo, which is off of Mesa. Very good. So they can simply go over there and shop. Yes, you can just come and support the local artists, because you're not just supporting our small business, you're also supporting a local artist that's creating the artwork. That's one of the things that I absolutely love about your business. So I wanted to thank you for taking the time out to come in here and talk to us about your business and who you are as an individual. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, I appreciate it. Absolutely. So thank you. So I wanted to thank Chelsea for being here and giving us an opportunity to talk to her. And please join us once again on our next show. Thank you very much. My name again is Miguel Valenzuela, and this is Creative Thinkers.